Hi and welcome to the Federal. We have senior journalist N. Ram with us, who is also one of the petitioners demanding a probe into Pegasus spyware case. Thank you for joining us, sir. Sir, how effective do you think the Supreme Court appointed panel will be?
I think it's the Supreme Court's verdict or interim orders are a very significant development because the two prayers were the government should say yes or no, whether they've used it or not, whether they have it or not, Pegasus, which is a military-grade spyware developed by and sold by NSO Group. And the second prayer was appoint an independent mechanism, a committee headed by a retired or sitting Supreme Court judge. Sitting, of course, wouldn't have been possible because of the amount of work. They can't spare a sitting judge. But we have a reputed retired Supreme Court judge now going to look into it. I think they can do a lot. Its task has cut out, but I think it can do quite a lot. It can help us arrive at the truth or close to the truth.
Okay, so in a situation where the central government does not cooperate with the panel, what course of action the panel actually can take?
I hope the central government will cooperate, but assuming for argument's sake it won't, which will incur the displeasure of the Supreme Court, no doubt, if they refuse to cooperate or obstruct. If that happens, the expert group and the retired judge can definitely independently investigate this. It has been established that some or several of the phones of Indian targets, for example, Prashant Kishore, this has already been, they have already been compromised because what happened was Amnesty International had developed a software which helps you detect this. Now, if you think your phone is compromised or targeted by Pegasus, infiltrated or captured, if you upload its contents, provided it's the same phone that you had originally used, to the website of Amnesty International, it can confirm or deny that your phone has been compromised. And that has been done in several cases in India and abroad. So there is, they can independently verify this. Now, if they re-establish after their own inquiry or investigation that these phones Pegasus has been used to target, in fact, not just spy on it, but capture the phone in effect, which means it can also inject its own vicious content, technically speaking, into the phone. Something, say, drug use or something else, some offense can be concocted and injected into this phone of an innocent person. So once that is established, then the question is, who could have done it? Now, the NSO Group says it sold the stuff, the military-grade software known as Pegasus, only to governments or government agencies. And therefore, we'll come close to the truth. Who else could have done it? Could it be a foreign hostile power, a non-state actor, a terrorist group, in which case the government is doubly obliged to investigate and find out the truth. So it can't say that these are all baseless allegations, as it has said. So I think the expert group or this independent mechanism headed by a retired Supreme Court judge and helped by senior former police officers, one of them had a leading position in intelligence. So they can come to the truth, even if, for argument's sake, the government does not cooperate or even obstructs. So they're not entirely dependent on the government. But we do hope that the government will cooperate. Otherwise, it's bound to incur the displeasure of the Supreme Court.
So you also started this answer and ended this answer saying that you hope the government cooperates. Actually, does the Supreme Court have powers to force the government to cooperate?
Yes, it does. It said we can't compel the government to file an affidavit, a more comprehensive affidavit. Although that, I think, is arguable. Maybe in some cases, courts have directed officials, chief secretaries and so on, to file full affidavits. But it has taken that position, so we respect that. But certainly, if the government obstructs, the Supreme Court has exercised the power of judicial review. in a qualified or nuanced manner in this case. So it certainly has the powers to compel the government to cooperate. Yes.
So the court said that it had shortlisted several experts to be nominated to the panel based on independently gathered information instead of relying on government agencies. But some experts actually politely declined the assignment. And your views on this, sir?
Yeah, they declined it, the court says, either for personal reasons or because there were conflicts of interest. Perhaps some of them spoke up against the use of Pegasus earlier. So we don't know who has approached, but certainly the court has worked very hard. They said personally they searched and found these, not relying on government contacts and so on. So that's exemplary. It's an exemplary exercise in the course of the power of judicial review to go out of their way to find these experts, notwithstanding many of them declining politely. So I think that makes it more praiseworthy.
And also the order makes a strong case against courts giving a free pass to the state every time an accuse of national security is raised. So how significant do you think is the court's observation on this case?
I think that's an important statement. No free pass by citing the specter of national security, because that happens all the time. When you ask something on Kashmir, they say national security for all kinds of things, and not just this government, it's happened before. So no free pass should be given to them. The court won't give it, and I hope the people of India won't give them a free pass. We shouldn't give them a free pass on these issues. When fundamental rights, both the right to privacy, which is derived by an important landmark judgment to the Supreme Court itself, from the right to life, Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, that the allegation is that has been seriously infringed or violated. But alongside that, the Supreme Court order has observed, closely related to that is freedom of the press. And there are many eloquent statements, observations, reflections on the importance of freedom of the press in this country, and also reflections on the chilling effect, which I think quite some detail. The Supreme Court in this order says that the press is a watchdog, and in order to perform the watchdog function, it should be able to investigate. It should be, and also importantly, the Supreme Court order mentions the need to protect sources, Otherwise, people will not come forward to blow the whistle or on corruption or whatever misdeeds or illegal surveillance. So all these matters have been touched upon or reflected on by the Supreme Court. So I'm very, very pleased that this has been the response. And this is the way the power of judicial review is being exercised in an important case.
So also, how do you think the central government should have handled this whole issue associated with the Pegasus spyware?
I think it would have been difficult for them because clearly there's a strong suspicion that they have used Pegasus. Who else could have used it? It has been used against Indian citizens. Already been established in several cases, as I said, that these phones are using this software developed by Amnesty International, which has also been validated by Citizen Lab of the University of Toronto. This is reputed to be the world's leading expert group on military-grade spyware, including Pegasus, and they have validated this software. So it has a great deal of credibility, trustworthiness, this software. So all you have to do is to upload the content. They won't do it if the government says, give this us, we'll examine it forensically, because there's no trust. It has to be an independent agency, and Amnesty, of course, guarantees confidentiality in this respect. And Citizen Lab looks at the security aspects. So I think it's important. You follow the pathway opened by the Supreme Court judgment or decision.
So final question, do you think the freedom of expression in our country is under a threat?
Yes, is under threat and is under pressure. But I would also add that there are spaces where you are free to express your critical opinion, your investigations, and so on. These spaces have to be enlarged Of course, sections of the mainstream media are far too non-independent. They play a propaganda role in support of the government, either actively playing that role as some TV channels, which I don't want to name in this discussion, do all the time, or do it by default by not raising these issues or playing them down. But there are adequate sections of the media. For example, the editorials that came today, apart from the Hindu, in the Indian Express and elsewhere, which I think speak to this. People are exercised over this issue. The influential sections of the media are exercised. You have discussions on television, NDTV, India Today, various other things, your own channel. So I think it's very good to have these discussions. So I'm not too despondent or pessimistic about freedom of speech, while it is, because some people are in despair. They throw up their hands, say, what can we do? There's so much fear. You can't do independent journalism. I think you can. And there are spaces. Fortunately, the Indian media landscape is so vast and diverse that it is not possible to do what was done during the emergency, which was to impose a blanket total censorship on the press. And not many spaces were available at that time. I'm old enough to remember that. But today, fortunately, in the Indian situation, there are upstanding journalists and voices, not just journalists, retired judges like Justice Gupta or Justice Madan Lokur. They have been speaking up, Justice A.P. Shah and many others. My own friend, Justice Chandru of the Madras High Court. I think all of them are independent voices, and they speak up on issues that matter. So I think don't get too despondent on this or too pessimistic about the state of freedom of the press. But we must recognize the reality that there are concerted attempts to create this chilling effect. Individual journalists are being harassed, are being targeted. Their proprietors are spoken to. Some of them are sought to be dismissed. And I think you need more spine, a stronger spine, particularly among the owners of the Indian press and the Indian news media. But there are, proprietors like, leaders like Pranoy Roy and Radhika Roy and various others, Rajdeep Sardesai as a leading journalist, working in challenging circumstances, but speaking up, doing a great job for independent and free journalism. So we must celebrate that.
So thank you for joining us, sir. That's all for now from the Federal on this issue. Log into thefederal.com for more such interesting updates. Thank you again, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. I learned a lot from you now. Thank you so much, sir.
I will also log in and thank you for this conversation.
Sure, sir. Thank you.